is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Nick Abbott.
Oh, hello.
Well, let's get back to it.
Some texts and tweets and such from last night. Paul texts, Brexit has no more fitting an epitaph than Nigel, anti-establishment, anti-economic migrant Farage, ending up as a lord and working in a foreign land.
He's a great guy. He's a good guy. He's a good person.
Yeah. John says, remember the good old days when you had callers to LBC saying, I know what I voted for. In the words of the lady cooking expert from Norwich, where are you? Let's be having you. Words she said when she was looking for supporters to back the team. Where are the Tories supporters now? Where's the I know what I voted for Tories? Says John, inquisitively. And Liam texts, as in relation to what we were talking about last year, just in passing. He said, the Time Magazine Personality of the Year, brackets, wiki, as though that is the very definition of truthiness. 1938, Time Magazine Personality of the Year, Hitler. 1939 and 1942, Stalin. Well, the Tangerine Tornado, when he was put on the front cover of Time Magazine, he thought it was because they liked him. They don't put you on the cover of the Time Magazine, make you Personality of the Year because they like you. They do it because you are the most significant person in that year. You have affected others more significantly than anybody else. It's not because they approve. It's not a thumbs up. And by the way, Wikipedia, be very, very cautious about taking what you read on Wikipedia as absolute truth.
Warning, warning.
Ain't necessarily so. I looked up myself on Wikipedia once because somebody told me that I had a tail. Come to find out that it's true, according to Wikipedia. A prehensile tail. I could actually cling onto a branch with it. Can you believe that? if only. Wouldn't that be great to have a prehensile tail? The things you could do with it. Christian text, expat, Tennessee, Brit here. Referring to water and privatisation, here in ultra-capitalist America, our gas, water, sewage and electricity are all provided by the equivalent of the city or the county council, not private companies. My total bill last month, with the heating on, came to $340. Where I've lived in both Florida and Tennessee over the last 10 years, only electricity in Florida was provided by a private utility. Yeah, that's just us, that is. We're the only country in the world that has sold off all our water, with the result, it's pretty predictable for all to see. There was a certain individual, Margaret Thatcher, who sold off all our water and made us then, and continue to be now, the only country in the world that has sold off all its water, its most precious resource, flogged off as monopolies to foreign entities. What could possibly go right? And the rest of the world is laughing at us. The New York Times, Fox News, ABC, CNN and numerous other international media ran stories in the build-up to today's race on the river. Although it was what was floating in the Thames rather than what was floating on top of it that piqued their interest, according to The Guardian. In the New York Times, they said, the warning was stern. Do not enter the water, not because of the tide, not because of the sharks, but because of sewage. For almost 2 centuries, rowers from Oxford University have raced their rivals from Cambridge in a contest that typically ends with jubilant members of the victorious crew jumping into the River Thames in celebration. This year, they will be staying as dry as possible. They're laughing at us from 3,000 miles away. The discovery of high levels of E. coli on the 4.25-mile course has not only further fueled public anger at the deteriorating state of, well, you try it, deteriorating. 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 Has piqued public anger at the deteriorating state of Britain's rivers, but, as first revealed in The Guardian, has also led organisers to issue tough new safety guidelines, which weren't apparently adhered to the maximum extent. Because Oxford team captain Lenny blamed E. coli in the water for their defeat against Cambridge, saying that he was vomiting before the start of the race.
Disgusting.
Can you believe that? He said there was too much poop in the water, which begs the question, how much poop is too much poop? Is the answer any? Is any poop in the Thames too much? I do believe it is. Both Cambridge teams managed to win the men and women's races today after going head-to-head with Oxford as they battled it out on the River Thames in the most uninteresting of all the overblown sporting events on earth. I mean, seriously, who cares? It's a race between two teams of freakishly huge toffs, none of whom are actually from Oxford or Cambridge, many of whom aren't even from this country. It matters about as much as the Founders' Day at Eton matters to the rest of the planet. Why is it still a thing? I mean, apart from anything else, it's the worst sporting spectacular ever invented. I used to live by the starting line. I was there for 10 years. And I'd go there pretty much every year in the freezing cold because it was right there. I mean, I wouldn't have travelled anywhere. I just stepped out my house, crossed the green there, and there it was. And I'd stand there in the freezing cold, surrounded by 7-foot-tall freaks, which always made it feel like I was standing at the bottom of a well. Couldn't see a thing, and you'd wait, and you'd wait, and you'd wait, and someone would fire a gun in the mid-distance, and you caught a glimpse of two boats charging off, and in about 10 seconds they'd be out of sight, and then that was it. You and thousands of other people would think, huh, what now? I mean, even Formula One motor racing is more interesting than that.
Boring!
But this year it was different because we didn't know if the teams would arrive alive. Because the rivers in this country are so bad that you can't go in them without pre-booking an ambulance, and it's all Margaret Thatcher's fault.
No!
The Oxford captain claimed the E. coli in the water affected their performance. This is how the Mail put it. This comes after a tense race to the finish line, which saw Cambridge's Matt Edge blow up as they made their approach for the win.
What?
He blew up? What does that mean? I mean, I don't have the benefit of actually having seen the race because, you know, there's just so much time in the average life. But it must have been brutal if a rower actually blew up. It says, with spit dangling from his chin, his crew managed to get him over the finish line. Oh.
Dreadful.
Who wants to see that? Following the race, the leader of the losing side, Lenny, which doesn't sound like someone who goes to either Oxford or Cambridge, does it? Lenny? Don't you mean Leonard? Lenny revealed that several members of their squad had been impacted by E. coli. He said, "We've had a few guys go down pretty badly with the E. coli strain. This morning I was throwing up, and I really wasn't sure that there was going to be a chance for me to be in the boat. But I ultimately kept that quiet, and that's on my shoulders," he said. His abnormally large shoulders that you could land a plane on. It's like they're a different species. Like they're robots.
Affirmative.
He says, "I'm not sure if it was the right choice because I really didn't feel like I had much to give. But, yeah, it would have been ideal not to have so much poo in the water." The 16 tests around Hammersmith Bridge in West London indicated an average of 2,869 E. coli colony-forming units per 100 mil of water. The E. coli level should be below 1,000, and it was 2,869. And below 1,000 would make it fall in line with the Environment Agency's inland bathing water quality standards. And I'm no expert on the amount of poop it's safe to bathe in, but I'm going to go with none. I'd like none, please.
Thank you.
River Action said the highest level it recorded was, and keep in mind it's supposed to be below 1,000. They said the highest level it recorded was 9,001. Blimey, 10 times higher than levels found in bathing waters graded as poor by Environment Agency standards. And as that's the same Environment Agency that have allowed our water companies to take £57 billion out of the business while loading them with £60 billion in debt and fixing nothing, while they were doing it. I wouldn't trust the Environment Agency to run my bath, let alone the nation's rivers. I mean, who is the Environment Minister? Whoever it is, if it was a chump, it wouldn't be a story, would it?
A major capital letters, big news story.
It wouldn't be a major capital letters, big news story. Government advice indicates that people should avoid being submerged in water of this grade, which is the lowest. It's believed that pollution in the river is from the Thames water discharging sewage straight into the river. And this is based on publicly available data. People ain't just making this stuff up, you know. It showed that Thames water has discharged like that, sewage into the Greater London area of the River Thames for 1,914 hours from the start of this year up to March 26th. That's 85 days. 85 days from the start of the year to March 26th. Guess how many of those 85 days it has been pumping hot, delicious sewage straight into our river? Out of 85 days, 79.
What?
79 out of 85 days. And it hasn't been raining for 79 out of 85 days, has it? So there must have been some other reason. Not that rain is an excuse for polluting the most famous stretch of water in the land. But don't worry yourself about the people who have run Thames Water. They're done just fine. They loaded Thames Water with £14 billion of debts and in the year to March last year paid themselves 45 million quid for excellence in being them. And in the previous 2 years, they gave themselves £53.9 million. There's money in that thar poop. And following the findings, both British Rowing and River Action released new guidance for rowing clubs dotted throughout the UK on how they can safely row in polluted bodies of water.
Warning, warning.
Following the findings, rowers are advised on the importance of covering cuts and grazes and blisters with waterproof dressings. They must take care not to swallow river water that splashes close to the mouth. They must wear suitable footwear when launching or recovering a boat and clean all equipment thoroughly. Or, in other words, don't go rowing on a river today or you're in for a big surprise. Conservationists, rowers and commuters alike are teaming up to urge government to enforce the law and ensure that polluters face legal punishment. And the government said, yeah, that's what they'll do. They'll face legal punishment. Sure they will. None of the people who have asset stripped the water companies that we rely on will face the full penalty of the law. The full penalty of the law is reserved for people who protest about the water companies' asset stripping. No, the donor class, who've run our most precious resource into the ground while making out like bandits, will not go to jail, as you would for throwing a single bucket of your own poop into a river. The people who throw billions of buckets of other people's poop into all of our rivers will instead go to the House of Lords, where they will rule over us at our expense forever. What a way to run a country, eh?
Dreadful.
Nick Abbott on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
Yeah! Dude!
Let's have a call in Chingford, wherever that is. Hello, John.
Oh, hi, Nick. Hope you're having a good Easter.
Yes, super. Thanks for asking.
And I hope your Easter eggs were plentiful and scrummy.
Yes, they were.
Yeah, good. And hopefully you had a lovely Easter pizza as well.
No, pizza is not for Easter. No, pizza is for Christmas.
I thought you all year round, man.
Christmas pizza.
I'm going on thin ice here.
You are going on. Yes.
But before you cancel me, I would like to talk about the greatest gig I ever went to in my life, and I'd like to recommend a Talking Blues to your wonderful, glamorous assistant, if I might. I mean, you might say go straight to the last two, but I wanted to talk a little bit about country music.
No, not country music. No, thanks. Country music.
Boring.
No, thank you.
Okay. Well, can I go on to the greatest gig I went to in my life?
Okay.
Well, it's sort of it's the Birds at Middle Earth in 1968 when Graham Parsons was in the band.
Right.
That was when they were in their country rock. I mean, that's my sort of country music, country rock.
Right. Why did you talk about country music?
Well, because Beyonce has released her country music album today.
Bouncy.
27 tracks.
Right. 27?
27, including Beatles covers, and I mean, it's...
That's a lot of tracks on an album. 27. You sure about that?
27 tracks. A lot of them are covers, including the Beatles' Blackbird, and it's gone gangbusters on Spotify.
Yeah, no
that
doubt.
Means.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, I thought I'd talk about the Graham Parsons in the Middle Earth. I've done that.
Okay.
I overstayed my welcome, but I would like to recommend I would like to recommend a Talking Blues to your glamorous assistant.
Yes.
Because we were talking about Talking Blues.
I have no idea what you're talking about right now, but please don't explain it to me.
This is for your glamorous assistant, yeah?
Okay. I mean, I'll put you back to him and you can have a little chit-chat with him. How does that sound? Good grief. 0345 6060 973. You want to talk about country music? It's a no from me.
No.
No, not remotely interested in country music. Although I do have a soft spot for Dolly Parton. How can anybody not like Dolly Parton? And what's his name? The guy who looks like he looks like an old timer in a Clint Eastwood movie. He smokes the marijuana a lot.
Want to score some pot?
Whatever his name is. And there's a few others, I suppose, but country music not generally my thing, because I don't come from Merca. Don't come from one of them flyover states. You know, where people wear dungarees and play this kind of music. Not those people. Not remotely interested. I am not one of them people, no. Anyway, thanks a lot, John, for whatever that was. Bouncy has a new album out.
Rock and roll!
And people are freaking because it's a country album and she's a black person. I imagine that is why people are freaking out. Plus, it's a new Bouncy album. But they wouldn't be freaking out to this extent if it wasn't country. Sylvia text. Really? This is text and tweets and such from last night. Sylvia text, you are such an Alan Partridge type. Why aren't you live? I'm an Alan Partridge type. What, you mean I'm on the radio? And I am live, Sylvia. I mean, I would have... I tried to call you and tell you this, but your mother said you were too busy to come to the phone. You said you were trying to start a new life on your own. That's what Sylvia's mother said. 0345 6060 973. And anybody under the age of 40 is going, what's he talking about? Plymouth, hello, Tim.
Oh, good evening, Nick, okay?
Yes, good, thanks.
Yeah, just two things. Talking about sewage, I took a little walk in our local nature reserve for my birthday, a birthday walk. With,
your birthday walk?
Yeah, with my partner, and she decided to cross the river at one point because we saw something that she wanted to take some photos of. I said, well, be careful because of the water, because of sewage and things.
And everything,
yeah. She wanted to go across, came back. It was up over her ankles, so through her wellies, and sort of cleaned her up and everything. But walking back down the way we came, we saw bits and things in the river. So,
bits.
Yeah, that wasn't very pleasant.
Bits.
Like bits and stuff.
Chunks. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And the other thing was...
this seems to have happened very, very quickly, doesn't it? I mean, either we have spent the last 14 years blissfully unaware that all of the water in this country, both on our coasts and in our rivers, has been fouled for our convenience, or or they're just sort of... It's like this country is having a going out of business sale, and the people who are in charge are just making as much money as they possibly can while they still can, because they know that their hammer is about to come down and a new management will take over and they'll stop this rot. But at the moment, I think that
I'd say that...
what?
I'd say if that was the case, there'd be a sign saying everything must go, but I think everything's already gone.
Well, that is true. Yeah, everything has already gone. Yeah, they're just squeezing it to see what they can get out the pips.
Yeah. And my other one was, I don't know if you've seen this. I don't think anyone's talked about this, but on the Conservative Facebook page, which I do admit is not probably the best place to be going to spend your time, but I saw that they're getting really angry about a post a couple of days ago saying Cadbury's are now selling gesture eggs instead of Easter eggs. Who is this gesture for? And they've got like a thinking emoji. It just made me laugh because it's like this.
They've cancelled
I had,
Easter.
Like,
Well, no, that ship sailed a long time ago. That ship has sailed and sunk because it hit some chunks, really big ones.
Yeah, well, that was it, Nick. Yeah, pleasure to speak to you.
All right, good work. Thanks a lot, Tim. You want to get hosed down now, straight away. Burn everything that you were wearing. 0345 6060 973. Well, I knew that it would come around because any Christian festival, it always does, particularly Easter, and particularly Christmas, rather, and now Easter too, I suppose. They've cancelled Christmas, they say. No! They always say that. While the entire nation is bedecked in tinsel with flashing multicoloured lights going on and off, and Christmas trees in every front room, they've cancelled Christmas, they say. Always. And it's always the same chumps staring down the lens of a camera or writing their furious squiggles as columns in the national newspapers telling us that they've cancelled Christmas with a special 52-page Christmas TV pullout inside. And now they're telling us that they've cancelled Easter. Really? They'll tell us that the crosses on a hot cross bun aren't the right colour next. What are they like? Yeah, serious politicians. No, that's a period that left when you-know-who bowled into our lives.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
Yeah, from that moment on, serious was out the window. And it is remarkable when you see politicians of old speaking. You know, Margaret, I saw a clip of Margaret Thatcher, and she seemed like a serious person. Like John Major. You see clips of John Major when he was the Prime Minister of this country. And he was certainly a serious person. You see clips of Gordon Brown. And he was a very, very serious person. And since then, it's just a bunch of nincompoops.
The great big greedy nincompoop.
Great big greedy nincompoops is what we got now. A bunch of ever more preposterous inadequates.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I don't know what we've done to deserve this, but we keep voting them in over and over again. So that's probably got something to do with it. It's our fault. I can't stand it anymore. But I'd rather stay here and try to make it better than to run away and, go to somewhere else. Not that I've got a choice in the matter. I'm stuck here just like you are and everybody else who's not a bazillionaire. Can't decide where we want to go. Only money can do that. Money is what's accepted everywhere.
Nick Abbot on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
This guy is sick. There's something wrong with this guy.
Johnny texts, the Bible predicted a false prophet where Christians would follow in their droves and wear his mark on their foreheads.
Don't be rude.
Yeah, I think I'm talking about you, Donny. Those mega hats, they look fantastic on your forehead. They're made in China. $100. Free Bible. I cannot believe that man is selling the Bible. I mean, if you need any further evidence that there's no such thing as God, there it is right there, that book does not burst into flames in that man's hands. He doesn't even have anything to do with printing the Bible. He's just lending his name to it like he does with buildings. Just puts his name on it and takes a cut. And they're still buying it. Wow. His fans, his cultists is what they are. They deserve everything they get if they're going to vote for that man. And they will get a lot of it in vast amounts. Lambeth, Patricia.
Lovely Nick, you let me down. You was going to be Prime Minister. But now I want you to be a lawyer.
A lawyer?
I don't get angry. I get frustrated that the people are so stupid. Now, I would have these water people for reckless endangerment, right? Mm-hmm. And also for the population. I take away their money, and if they've spent it, I'll put them all in prisons from the top. And then maybe we can sort out the world.
And give them a damn good thrashing while you're at it.
Why not?
Why not? Exactly right.
And also, I watched a program in 1993 in America.
Yeah.
There's something similar. And now, all the water in America is perfect.
Well.
They took all the scientists and they put those people in prison.
Prison, yes. Well, they don't go to prison in this country, Patricia. They go to the House of Lords, as I have previously explained. Yeah.
Well, that's worse.
Yeah.
What can I say? Anyway, by the way, just to pull you up, I do not play bingo, even though my age, all my friends are in their 20s, 30s, 40s and 50s.
Yeah.
Because I'm Lambert Joan Collins.
Right. Well, I don't think I ever said that you played bingo or anybody else of your age.
No, but listen, darling. When I rung you, I said I'm 88 in April.
88?
And you said something about...
two fat ladies. Yeah, you can't say that anymore. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, bingo.
But I've
Quite
been
right.
listening to you for ages.
Ages. Well, I appreciate it. I appreciate it, Patricia.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I didn't like to ring you.
No, well, me either. I don't like to ring me either.
No. Oh, shut up, you.
I can't.
Shut up, you. Come on.
It's a job. Here, Patricia, I've got to go, but cheers, my dear. You must get Patricia to turn down her radio when she talks to me next time. Promise me you'll do that.
I promise you.
He promises he'll do that. Excellent work, Patricia. Simon says, I fear that Reform will form a coalition with the Tories and thus go on for another 5 years, representing 35 to 40% of the electorate and laughing as they do. Is there any hope left, says Simon. Yes, Simon, there's always hope. Don't lose hope. They can't form a coalition with the Tory party because the Labour Party are going to wipe them all out. Because of our screwed-up voting system, it is entirely likely that if Reform get 15% of the vote, they still won't get any MPs. Wouldn't that be funny? Well, I mean, there's a certain individual who's closely associated with that party that doesn't think that he should be in politics.
Nigel Farage is not fit and proper to be in government.
He's not fit and proper to be in government, says Nigel Farage. Or Farage, or whatever his name is. I don't think he's decided yet. Depends on the audience. If he's speaking to people at the Savoy, it's Farage, I would imagine. If he's doing his flat hat and pint routine, then it's Farage, I would imagine. Not that I know, but I'm just guessing. But even if it's not true, it doesn't prevent it from being a fact. Tristan says, I decided to make a drinking game. I take a shot each time there is a news story about Tory corruption. I haven't been sober in months. Help.
Booze.
Yeah, you ain't getting no help from me, Tristan. It's a free bar. Help yourself. Let's have Bromley. Richard.
Nick.
Richard.
Nick. Hello.
Yes,
Hello,
sir.
Good to talk to you. Poo. I want to talk about poo.
Yeah, can you believe that? The word poop was in the news. I am stunned.
Poo-Poo. He was a very famous French cyclist, but that's all by and by. Raymond Poulidor. But poo, it will be solved if it stops raining. A lot of rain that's fallen out of the sky the last few months. I think we probably do know why. That's all being mixed up. They are building a huge sewer in London, which are replacing the old Victoria sewer. It's 18 miles long.
At our expense, yes.
At our expense, totally. And I think clearly lots of people have pulled a lot of money out where it could have been fixing things. But more importantly, I just want to say, we have been walking around and still continue to walk around 1 million dogs in the UK now, and I'm constantly wandering through parks, wandering down the street, avoiding poo. And this is on land, it's not in the water, and there's no choice about it. Whenever I go for a walk, there is poo. Bill. So, what are your thoughts about dogs and poo? Are you a dog lover? I don't know. I don't have a dog, but there are 30 million dogs.
Yeah, way too many.
In the UK.
I don't think anybody should be allowed to own a dog in a built-up area. I think that should be the law in this country. And the larger the dog, the less you should be able to have one.
And I go for walks now in the park or have a wander. You might have a few kids with you. And there are people wandering around Crystal Palace Park, Beckenham Place Park in South East London with like 4, 5, 6 dogs.
Yeah.
And they're all off their leads and they're all cocking their legs in the wrong places. And these dog owners or dog walkers do not know where their dogs are pooing. And they do not go and pick.
What gets me is the people that clear up after their dog and then they tie a little baggie in a knot and then they hang it off a tree. Like it's a Christmas ornament. What is that about?
Well, you're actually then you've got sewage that's almost. I mean, this is sort of airborne stuff. I mean, what would an alien think if they landed or sort of hit this stuff, have a sniff, and then perhaps disappear?
Well, I think they'd decide to annihilate the entire planet, or just write in a guidebook. The Earth? It's okay. Used to be nicer. Just don't get any on you. All right. Thanks a lot, Richard. 0345 6060 973. It sounded like a DJ to me. Hey! A little bit like a DJ. Little bit. Johnny texts, I just woke up from a 10-year coma. Has anything happened? No, Johnny, haven't missed a thing. Coronation Street's still on. Everything else is as normal. Tom texts, dairy cows in Texas and Kansas have tested positive for H5N1 bird flu. A frightening escalation, says Tom. Escalation? What, like they're declaring war on us? They're cows. How can cows get bird flu? Don't tell me. It's probably awful. I just don't want to know. I don't think I could stand to go through that again. But we'll have no choice as to whether we go through that again. You know, the thing. We'll have no choice as to whether we go through it or not. We'll just have to suffer it, that's all. What's his name? That bespectacled bloke who ran health in America, he said that we were entering the era of the pandemic. Yeah. Please let there not be another one of those. Not while I'm still around. I mean, just wait till I'm gone and then you can have one. Better. Jane says, don't worry about a thing. The car is going to save us all. Sorry, Sadiq, but that is how it is, says Jane. Petrol, diesel and electric cars. Young girls now love a car as much as their dolls, and boys have always loved their cars. They don't want a war, they want a car. Although to buy a car, they can only afford and want one child, some none. It is happening. The world's worst problem, overpopulation, is being solved by the car, says Jane. I'll sum that argument up for you. What on earth are you talking about, Jane? Kids don't want cars, they want an Uber account. The car is the last thing they want. They don't want that. Cars are just a pain in the neck. You've got to fill them up, you've got to take them to the garage, and then the engine starts clanking, and it's off the road for 2 weeks, and the bill comes in, it's 1,500 quid, and they still haven't fixed it. Don't talk to me about cars. No, they want the easy thing. They just want to get on their the stupid smartphones and call up some bloke who brings his own car, takes them to where they want to be, and drops them off at the curb. David texts, suspicious facts. We've had Google Earth, but no Google Moon. Why not? What are they hiding? No Google Mars either. Earth is festooned in spy satellites, says David. And that is probably correct. Festooned we are. Cheshire, John.
I mean, what's the point of all these agencies off GEM, this, that and the other, Environment Agency, when they never do a blind thing? They just, we're going to do this, we're going to do that.
Yeah, leave it with us, we're going to,
Yeah, they're toothless, absolutely toothless. I think
it must be by design. I mean, they can't all be utterly useless at their jobs by accident, so it must be by design. I think they exist to make us poor dopes who pay taxes think that the regime is in some way acting in our interests, whereas all of the evidence points to them not doing that.
Exactly the opposite it is, actually.
Yeah.
Exactly the opposite. It's a smoke screen.
It's an illusion. Ha, ha, ha.
Yeah.
Sing.
By the way, I had a Robin Reliant.
Did you?
Great car. Yeah, great car.
It's not a great car. It's an absolutely abysmal car. A Robin Reliant. I mean, apart from anything else, there's not a single person on earth who would look good in a Robin Reliant.
Oh, you don't look good.
No.
It was handy because he could push the headlight back in and fell out. which happened to me.
It was good because you could push the headlight back in when it fell out. That's not really the mark of a good car to me.
No, but it worked.
Right. Until it didn't. Yeah. Did you ever fall over in one? I mean, you couldn't really go round corners, could you? Not at any sort of speed.
Oh, I did 70 miles an hour on that in the M6.
You are lucky to be alive, John.
Well, I was thinking I was about to take off, but I was travelling okay.
Yeah, mind you, there's not too many sharp corners on the M6, but in and around town, I wouldn't go over about 5 miles an hour in that. In fact, I wouldn't use it as a shopping trolley. I wouldn't get inside. I'd take the roof off, maybe use it as a wheelbarrow would be better.
Well, it had its advantages. The tax was great.
Yeah, cheap. Exactly right. It's cheap, and if when the headlight fell out, you could push it back in. Yeah, the perfect car.
Only had 3 wheels.
Yeah, so there was one less to worry about. Yeah, quite right.
Yeah. It was a good car.
No,
but anyway,
no, it wasn't. For all of the reasons that we've just described, it was not a good car. Abysmal car. Terrible.
Yeah, it was a motorbike engine, wasn't it, really?
Yeah, why do motorbike engines sound so loud? I mean, I know that we've probably covered this topic before, but I don't think I've ever got to the bottom of why they sound so loud, because they're smaller than a car engine, yet most cars that aren't like Lamborghinis don't sound that loud. So why have they managed to make an engine that is that small to put on a motorbike sound like the earth being pulled apart? Apart from morons who drive motorbikes like it that way.
Macho thing, isn't it?
Yeah. And I'm looking at you, Harley Davidson, in particular.
Yeah. I don't say reliant man.
You're a reliant man. Yeah. No, I wouldn't spread that about, John. No, if you're ever at one of those parties where people throw their keys in a bowl, just say you came by cab. Thanks a lot, mate.
Nick Abbott on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
And I like him. He's a good man. He is not a racist. I can tell you that. He's a good person.
He likes me even though I'm not a racist. Thanks a lot, Donnie. You're the best. You're the best, worst person ever. Darren texts, is there any chance of getting Donnie Tango to sign a copy of his new book, The Bible? I think a copy of The Bible signed by the devil will be worth an absolute fortune at some point.
Don't be rude.
Oh, that is a good point, yeah. eBay would blow up. Fans go wild as Bible signed by the devil goes on sale. Bob texts, I'll read it as it's written, why is West so anti-Putin? You, as in the letter U, may not like it, but he has 70% popularity amongst his people. Just a fact. Google it. More than can be said about your last 3 PMs who are treating your people like doormats. Well, yeah, the last part's true, but the first part makes me think that you are a robot, Bob.
Affirmative.
Are you a robot? How many traffic lights do you see in this picture? Tick all the squares. I keep getting that wrong. And I think I get it wrong because I think that they're actually testing whether I know how many, whether I know what a traffic light looks like, but they're not. You know all those Captcha things? You know when they say, how many of these 9 squares contains a bicycle? And you have to click all the 9 squares, and there'll be just like a tiny, one of the squares will have a tiny little bit of a wheel in it, and you think, well, Are they including that square or are they not including that square? And you think, oh, well, I'll just click it because there's a tiny bit in, and then you get it wrong. They say, no, that's not right. And you think, oh, I just want to read the news. Why can't you just let me read the news? I have to go through this palaver every time I want to look anything up on the World Wide Wait. I have to see whether I want to accept cookies or not. No, and furthermore...
No.
Not now, not ever, never. Don't want your blooming cookies. You can stick your cookies. Why do I have to keep answering that question? And I don't want adverts from companies that are strictly tailored to my every need and desire. No, thank you. I mean, I appreciate the asking.
Thank you.
But no. And that capture stuff. And then sometimes they just put a box then. Are you a robot? Tick in this square if you're not. And you tick it and then they let you through. And you think, well, what was that about? I could have been a robot. If I was a robot, I would have ticked that square.
Correct.
And so how can you know that I'm not a robot because I ticked that square? And then I found out they're not testing whether you're whether you have the ability to tick a square or to find out whether there are bicycles in one of these squares or how many traffic lights there are here or any of that stuff. They're not actually testing you on that. Did you know that? Because I didn't. Came as a surprise to me when I found out what's actually going on there. Do you know what's going on there? I bet you do.
I actually don't.
You're a blooming genius. You know everything. You do.
I thought they were testing you as well.
No, they're not. It's worse than that.
I'm rubbish at those too.
Yeah,
it's really embarrassing.
Exactly. But you're not rubbish at them because you think they're testing you for what it looks like on screen that they're testing you for, but they ain't doing that. They have no interest on whether you can determine whether a traffic light is in a square or not. That's not the test. I couldn't believe it when I found this out. I felt duped. And then somewhat alarmed when the full ramifications of what it is that they're actually testing sunk in. And I'm kind of surprised that more people don't know this. I'm surprised that you don't know this because you know blooming everything you do. You are so annoying. Every question I ask you is like, oh, yeah, well, everybody knows that.
I'm a bit of a dinosaur when it comes to tech, actually.
Right.
Because I spend all my time listening to radio.
Radio, well, that'll just mush your mind, that will. So, look, I've run out of time. So I'll have to tell you in the next hour what is actually being tested by all those capture things. Because some of them, they don't look like, a moron could pass this test, you think. All they're asking me is, can you tick a box? Well, any idiot could tick a box. How is that checking whether I'm a robot or not? And then I found out what they're actually doing. And it's much more alarming than making you go through this folderol with whether you can determine whether a picture has a car in a square or not. Because you'd think a robot would know that. Robots are smart now. They're absolutely blooming geniuses, robots. So you think a robot would be able to tell in an instant whether there's a traffic light in a square or not. Because all traffic lights look the same. So you'd be able to program a robot.
Absolutely.
Oh, no, that's the wrong one. Well, it's right next to this one.
Affirmative.
Yeah, you'd be able to program a robot. See, a robot wouldn't have got that wrong. Proof positive that I'm an actual real-life human being. With all my foibles and faults. A lot of faults. Huge amounts.
Correct.
Yeah. Thanks. But, that capture stuff, that's it is actually quite alarming. And I'm not sure whether I signed up for what it is that they're actually doing. Well, I probably did, because, like you, when you tick the box that says, I have read the terms and conditions, but have you read the terms and conditions?
No.
Of course not. Because the terms and conditions would take from now until the end of time to read. There's about 86,000 pages in the terms and conditions. Nobody reads that. They know they don't. Why do they ask us if we've read the terms and conditions? Because they know no one in history has ever read the terms and conditions. We just tick the box because we want to get on with our lives. Not employing a whole building full of lawyers to go through a contract just so that we can listen to blooming the new Beyonce record. Crying out loud. And then we get to find out it's a country music album.
Boring.
It's cost us £83,000 in legal fees just to get that far. But, you know, apart from that, I never complain.
Whinging and whining and moaning.
0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nicka@lbc.co.uk. If you're on Twitter, it's @LBC. And we WhatsApp too. If you got the WhatsApp thing, then it's also 0345 6060 973.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC. This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Nick Abbot.
Hello, boys.
Hang about, Nick. Listen. Now, what I'm trying to say to you is this, Nick, right?
So he changed the word poop to feces in the news about the state of Thames water, and I'm not sure it's an improvement. I mean, poop. There's something amusing about the word poop. Poop. It's almost a pleasurable thing to say. And here, poop. I mean, if you say it often enough, it doesn't mean what it actually means anymore. Poop. It's there's an amusing quality to the word poop. Poop. Just try it yourself. Go ahead. Poop. Feces, on the other hand.
Disgusting.
Oh, well, it's 2 syllables for a start. Takes much longer to say. Feces. There's nothing pleasant about that. Oh, God, I feel like I'm covered in it. 0345 6060 973. Don't forget to remind me to tell you about what that Captcha stuff is all about. Because when I found out, I could not believe it. I felt like I had been abused. I was shouting, "Help! I'm being abused," by people I've got absolutely no idea who they are. From afar, if you can believe that. So I'll tell you the bad news in a while, just as soon as somebody reminds me to tell you. Peter says, why does everybody say Robin Reliant? It's Reliant, brackets manufacturer, Robin, brackets model. No one says Focus Ford or Beetle Volkswagen or Micra Nissan. But years and years of Robin Reliant goes unchallenged. It's driving me round the bend, obviously at a nice sedate pace so I don't tip over. A Robin Reliant. A Reliant Robin is what it's supposed to be. That's right. How many Reliant Robins can you see in this picture? Graham says, I think it's about time that everybody stopped asking rusty syntax about the election. The country doesn't want one. People have told him. If we're not careful with these questions, he's going to get really cross. I go out every day and people tell me they don't want an election.
This government will have integrity, professionalism and accountability.
At every level, sure. Darren texts, is there any chance of getting... Oh, no, the Donny Tango to sign his copy of the Bible. Copy of the Bible signed by the devil would be worth a fortune.
Don't be rude.
Yeah, we've done that one already. That's a good point, though, Darren. These are still texts and tweets from last night. Oh, my God, I haven't even got to today's yet. I am very, very bad at my job. Sonia texts, what on earth is going on in this world? I saw a news story on TV where Americans would rather vote for Putin than Biden. Yes, I saw that too. I mean, it may have been a different one, but, you know, I've seen the people express the same opinion. People of a certain element say that they'd rather vote for Vladimir Putin than Joe Biden, and that they would rather live in a dictatorship than have another democratic presidency. There's a half of America that has completely lost their minds. I mean, they've just gone totally doolally. And a giant orange numpty off the TV whose sole success in life was pretending to be successful did it. He just wobbled in and took over. It's amazing. And now all these people are talking about him like he's Jesus. I mean, literally talking about him like he's Jesus. Come back to walk amongst us, sent from God, they say. I'll sum it up for you.
I love the poorly educated.
He loves the poorly educated, he said to a group of poorly educated people, and they whooped and cheered. I rest my case. John says, the other week you had a lot of callers talking about James Bond and you were complaining. Tonight you've had Hitler and immigration. Last night this was. I bet you missed the James Bond callers. Be careful what you wish for. I didn't think I was complaining about James Bond callers. And we did talk briefly about Hitler and immigration. Yeah, not that they were connected in any way. But no, you can call me about James Bond all night long. Don't mind about that at all. I just wish that they get on with it. I mean, I do bore on about Tom Cruise movies because he is the only one, the only actor that I know that makes action-adventure films for grown-ups. All of the rest are for children. Everything with Vin Diesel in it is for children. All of those robots that change shape, they're all for children. All of that superhero stuff, it's all for children. The only grown-up action-adventure star who keeps putting out movie after movie after movie is Tom Cruise. And in the time that it's taken them to make one James Bond film, he's put out Top Gun 2, which is epic, and made Mission Impossible 6.1 or whatever that last one was called, which has quite possibly the best stunt of all time in it. And he's just about to release Part 2 in the time that they took them to make one really bad James Bond film. So, yeah, that's the reason I go on about him, because, he's saved cinema. Appreciate it, Tom.
Thank you.
And you can be as nutty as you like in your private life. I don't care. Just keep doing what you do. Sue texts, come on, Nick, leave the Tories alone. They're doing their best. Yeah. It seems like a lifetime ago that people were saying that to me about Boris Johnson. I mean, calling up in all seriousness to tell me to lay off him because he was doing his best, while thousands of people were falling down dead around him, and billions of pounds of our money was being spirited from us into the pockets of mates and donors. Leave him alone. He is doing his best, they would say, again and again and again, like they'd been hypnotised. Be careful, sheeple. If you don't take great caution, we're going to end up like America. Jonathan says, Edinburgh is lovely, but it's not that lovely. Check Coventry out, says Jonathan. He wants to send me to Coventry. Hull. Hello, Charles.
Oh, hi, Nick. Yeah. It's really poop and scoop.
Re-poop.
Thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in America, you can sue for defamation, and you can sue companies. You can't sue the Rifle Association and the people who build the bullets. But if you shoot from a hotel, you can sue the hotel.
Is that right?
Yeah. So it occurred to me, in Britain, surely our bodies are more important. It's very difficult to live without your body.
Most people would agree with that assumption. Yes.
Yeah. So why don't all the people whose bodies have been made ill by E. coli from the streams and rivers, why don't the rowers, the oarsmen, sue? Thames Water and all these water companies. Why don't they do it?
Well, I would imagine several reasons. One, the possibility of a success, and there's bound to be a billion lawyery reasons why they wouldn't succeed. And two, the expense in doing that. That's a rich person's game in this country.
Yeah. What about crowdfunding?
Well, yeah. I mean, yes, absolutely. I mean, that's one of the things that I say about the internet a lot, is that one day a company is going to step over the line. Because most of the time we just put up with, particularly in this country, we just shrug our shoulders and we just put up with stuff.
Mustn't grumble.
Exactly right. Mustn't grumble is our nation's catchphrase, yeah. After having grumbled about it for like 3 hours straight, then we just we accept it and say mustn't grumble. Excuse me, my coffee is backing up on me. I'm speaking and trying not to burp at the same time, which is quite hard. My head may blow off any moment now. But at some point, a company is going to go over the edge and displease the lot of us. And at that moment, the internet will come into its own because people, where ordinarily they might put a placard on their back and walk up and down in front of that company's headquarters, now they'll be able to say on the internet, look at what this company has done, what an absolute outrage they are. And another person will say, gosh, yes, that's awful. I'll retweet this to my friends. And their friends will retweet it to their friends. And suddenly 6 billion people on Earth will be of the same mind. And they will look at that company and think, not I'm going to boycott them or I'm going to defund them in some way. I'm just not going to use them anymore. So it's not going to be an aggressive action. It will be a withdrawing of their support. And most things have options. I mean, our water doesn't because some moron sold it as monopolies and then expected that to go well.
Yeah.
No, but most companies, like oil companies, for instance, if you don't like one, then there's another petrol station 100 yards down the road. Supermarkets, you don't like one, there's another one sitting right next to it. Coffee shops, if you don't like one, there's 3 more over the road of a different company. We've always got a choice. And so we don't have to go to our usual place. And if everybody's decided not to, then a company that's worth billions of pounds will be snuffed out like a light.
Yeah. Well, actually, I don't drink my tap water anymore, you know.
Oh,
and I
really?
started. Yeah. I swear it was making me ill, you know. So anyway, I have lemonade, but of course you do tend to graduate
lemonade
to vodka and whiskey if you're not careful.
Booze. Mm-hmm.
Booze.
I think water at the tap has got to be okay. Although, I think I mentioned this last night. Somebody did ask me about this. I was having a conversation just the other day with somebody about water coming out the tap. My instinctual reaction was, of course it's fine in this country, water coming out the tap. But then we used to think about that as, like Lake Windermere wouldn't be covered in, wouldn't be full of poop. But that ain't true no more neither. So I thought,
didn't know that. Windermere?
Yeah, yes, our most celebrated body of water is full of sewage, yeah.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, oh, dear, exactly. So I don't think we can take anything for granted anymore, but I assume that the water that comes out the tap is okay until told otherwise, and I hope somebody's checking on it. All right, thanks a lot, Charles. 0345 6060 973. Hey, we're in today's texts now. Finally, we got there. Ahmed says, I read online that since 2017, almost 1,000 pharmacies have closed down, mainly in poorer parts of the country. Can you please link this somehow to to Gary Lineker or Meghan Markle so the government can brush this latest story under the rug? Yeah, leave it with me. Meghan Markle, you see what you've done? No! You know, that whole Kate thing. I did wonder how long it would take, and I mentioned this last weekend, I think. I did wonder how long it would take the papers to blame Meghan Markle or to drag her in somehow to Kate's announcement that she had cancer. And it took them one day. And it was the head of the Mail Online's stories. And the headline was, Kate does not need Meghan, says expert. I mean, they will always find a way. They just will. And that's our fault for buying it. Natalie says, everything is our fault. And keep that in mind, by the way. Everything is our fault. We think we have no power. We have all the power in the world. For the reasons that I was just explaining. We don't have to form committees. We don't have to have get-togethers and groups or any of the rest of it. We just have to withdraw our support from the company or corporation of your choice. And it won't be an aggressive action. It will be a passive one. I mean, they can't complain that we're not buying stuff from them anymore, can they? And they won't know, and it hasn't happened to any company yet, not to my knowledge. And the corporation, the £1 billion plus corporation that it first happens to, that will confidently step over the line thinking, wow, look at all the money that we've got, then nothing could possibly happen to us. We can do anything we want. And then one of them will just will just get unlucky, I suppose. Because, cat videos go around the world, and some go out and nothing happens. And another one that looks exactly the same will go out, and 100 million people will look at it. It just goes viral. And there's no rhyme or reason to it. There's no way you can say, well, I'm going to make a video that has the following constituents, and by that method it will go viral, because it's an organic thing. And it's the same about a complaint about a company. One day, and I've been saying this for years now, and it hasn't happened yet, one day a company will go over step over the line, and it will go viral. And people will say, well, you know what, I don't want to buy my coffee with them anymore, or I don't want to fill up at that station anymore, or I don't want to buy their clothes anymore. And that globe-spanning massive corporation will just disappear. People power. We think we don't have any power, but we have all of the power. All we have to do is use it. And the internet is the perfect vehicle for us to get the word out. But don't let me forget to tell you about what that Captcha thing is all about. Because if you don't know, it will come as a surprise, and you ain't going to like it.
Nick Abbott on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
I am not one of your fans!
Natalie says, is there any better metaphor for the UK today than posh kids rowing through sewage for a traditional yet pointless sporting competition? Well, if you give me a while, I might be able to think of one, but that's a pretty good one to be going along with. Brian says, the Oxford boat race team blaming poo in the water, presumably to the tune of the famous Deep Purple song.
Rock and roll!
Yeah, or Tangled Up in Poo by Bob Dylan from the Blood on the Tracks album. I'm sure others are available. 0345 6060 973. Birkhead, Tina.
Hi, Nick. Hello.
Tina.
Hi, Nick. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Well, I almost fell asleep there waiting to get on the phone.
Hey, Tina. Wake up. 32 minutes you were waiting there. Sorry about that.
It's just an illusion. Ha, 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 ha.
Yeah.
Do you remember that song?
Of course I remember that song. Who doesn't remember that song?
Well,
great song.
Well, actually, I sort of lost my train of thought because you were going off on a tangent.
Well, I certainly am glad you called.
But I was thinking about America. I've just been there for 3 weeks. And,
Where about?
Yeah, Utah.
Utah?
Mm-hmm.
Why'd you go to Utah?
I have family there.
Oh, right. There was a good reason to hang out in Utah. Yeah.
Indeed. And, it's just...
it's an extraordinary-looking place, isn't it? I drove through Utah, and the scenery there is almost alien-like in some areas. I mean, the sort of rock formation in Utah is an extraordinary thing.
It is indeed, but the sort of culture of the people is very strange, actually.
Yeah.
It's a weird place. I have to say, the people are weird. I thought, I would fit right in, but I felt a little bit out of sorts, to be honest with you.
A stranger in a strange land.
Yeah, exactly. Americans are, different people, I must say.
And they're getting more different, I think, with each passing year, and particularly since the Tangerine tornado arrived on the scene. Things have just got properly weird there, and people say his fans will say, "Well, he didn't start a war when he was president," as though that's so you can get through 4 years without starting a war is a reason to vote for him again. But he did start a war. He started an internal war. There's a civil war going on in America right now. He split the country 50-50, and now half of the country wants to shoot the other half.
Well, all I can say to you, Nick, is that I kind of went there and I thought, oh, I'm going to be rejuvenated and you know, sometimes when you go to a different country or something, then you come back and you think, oh, you know, I'd love to live somewhere else, but I was really glad to get back to Scotland. With all its faults and working in Glasgow when it rains every single day.
Every day.
Even though I live in Birkhead, I do not want to live in America. Thank you very much. You can keep it, and you can keep your tangerine man as well.
Yeah. You know, I spent, about 9 or 10 months going around America. And that was in the late 1970s, early 80s, which was a brilliant time to be there because it was, it wasn't done up yet. Like New York was still really dangerous and incredibly exciting. Like electricity was pouring through you all the time. It was just thrilling. And that's sort of been that's sort of been wiped away. You know, Times Square is not as it used to be, full of theatres showing unpleasantries.
Disgusting.
Now it's got Disney stores in it. You know, it's sort of been commodified. It's been cleaned up, and it's a bit antiseptic, and I just loved going around then because it seemed to me like it was in colour, whereas life in this country at that time, in the late 1970s, was a bit black and white, and everything was broken, and people were poor, and nothing seemed to work here. Whereas in America, things had been working and people had been rich since the Second World War. I mean, they didn't go through the privations that we did here. They were rich at the point of the Second World War and continued to be ever more spectacularly rich. I mean, they had fridges that were the size of houses here. and cars that were the size of continents. Huge things. And nothing was expensive to them. Everything was cheap. But now I just don't want to go. It seems like it's been ruined.
Well, all I can say, Nick, is if you see a piece of broccoli every corner, everywhere you turn it's just fast food. It's just like, I spent 3 weeks and, I try to eat healthily, but, it was just unbelievable. It's just like you cannot eat. Everything is just donuts and fast food. And, I thought, walking around up in the north of Scotland, there's a lot of unhealthy people, but America gets first prize because
it certainly does.
It's terrible. Awful. I do not want to live there. I would not. It's just so bad. I mean, the food culture is
it's shocking. It really is.
It is shocking. And it's not even a joke anymore. I mean, I know that you like to take things on the chin and it's a joke, but no, thanks very much. I'll come back to Scotland and I'll have an iron brew or whatever.
An iron brew and a bridie,
That's healthy compared to what I would see.
Exactly, All right, thanks a lot, Tina. Keep on keeping on. Cheers, my dear. 0345 6060 973. Adam says, Prime Minister Titchy suit size, he skews facts. Apparently he wants to bring on Nigel Farage as a US ambassador. Well, I bet he doesn't. But he doesn't want to. Whether he does or not is another thing entirely. He says, why doesn't he make himself ambassador, as he will be spending most of his time there very soon, says Adam. Yeah, but the ambassador's got to stay in Washington. And nothing very glamorous about Washington. Not, I haven't been to Washington, but I'm fairly aware that it's just got this sort of antiseptic middle part with all the buildings that we're familiar with. And then around that, not so much. No, he wants to be in California, with not the parts where they got people sleeping on the streets in tents. He wants to be where the rich people live. Sarah says, evening, Nick, hope you're well. Just finished listening to the latest What's Your Problem episode, and for once I agree with Carol. Carol?
What?
It's simply freakish to spend all night sleeping on your back, says Sarah. No, it ain't. It's perfectly normal, Sarah. What's freakish about that? You just lie on your back and you go to sleep. Then you wake up in the morning, totally refreshed. It's not weird at all. What's weird is sleeping on your front. That's very bad for you, that is. Particularly if you've got a pillow under your head, you'll snap your neck. Well, I do a podcast with Carol McGiffin, by the way.
Oh, right, yeah.
That's what she's talking about, and you'll find that it is available on an internet near you.
Oh, right, yeah.
It's called What's Your Problem with Nick and Carol, in which the delightful and occasionally nutty Carol McGiffin and I try to solve people's problems. Now, if you want us to have a bash at your dilemma, you must send it to the following address, nickandcarol@global.com. Every now and again, we do come up with some really excellent suggestions. I mean, mostly we just start laughing our faces off. If you wish to be amused, then I do believe it will be right up your alley. But if you've got a dilemma that you want us to have a bash at, then it's nickandcarol@global.com. And there's over 200 episodes up there now, and they come out twice a week, Mondays and Fridays. It's on Global Player, and the thing to ask for, if you've got one of them stupid smart speakers, is play What's Your Problem with Nick and Carol.
This is LBC with Nick Abbott.
You're joking.
0345 6060 973. So I don't know if you noticed there, but the newsman has now gone from poop in the River Thames in relation to the boat race. And I was okay with poop. I mean, not literally okay with it, but the word poop, because I mean, it starts with a P and ends in a P, and it's got two O's in the middle. What's not funny about that? Poop. It's a pleasant little word. I almost want to make it a pet. Poop. And then he went to feces. Oh, God, I feel like I need a shower just having said it. And it's a horrible word to look at. Faeces. Ugh. I mean, an A and an E should not be conjoined in that manner, should they? I mean, it's just, you know that there's something wrong with that word the moment you lay eyes on it. Feces. Oh, God. And now he's on sewage. And it's almost meaningless, the word sewage now. We've heard it so many times this year. Sewage, 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 sewage. It's practically the word of the year, sewage. Doesn't mean anything anymore. Oh, there's sewage in the river. Oh, well, you know, sewage, fish, what's the difference? So I think just to communicate the full horror of the situation that we find ourselves, I think you should go back to feces, because there's just no getting by that, is there? Ugh. Sewage is all right. Oh, look, you got a bit of sewage on your face. Never mind, just flick it off. You'll be perfectly fine. Oh, don't forget to remind me about that whole Captcha thing. You know, the annoying thing that you have to go through before they'll let you see the website of your choice. They need to check whether you're a robot or not.
Affirmative.
And then you go through this Captcha nightmare to see whether how many squares contain a traffic light, you know, stuff like that. How many squares contain a bus? And you think, well, any moron could figure that out. How do they know I'm not a robot from just that? So don't forget to remind me to tell you that, because the actual truth of it is not as it seems. It's completely different. And when I found out, I was appalled. Bath. Hello, John.
Hello, Nick.
You're not actually in the bath at the moment, are you?
No.
Right.
Just in the vicinity of.
Okay.
A couple or three things.
Mm-hmm.
You know, one of your callers earlier on said something on the lines of, if a sniper was to attack from a hotel window, you can sue the hotel.
Right.
And I was thinking that, did the Kennedys sue the book depository?
Probably not.
Probably not. As for this fellow, you know, this well-spoken young man who does rowing, I mean, the word he used, feces, you'd think with the money that was spent on his education, he could have come up with excrement. But, you know...
I think he said poop, didn't he?
Yeah, I'm
You're
not
talking
quite
about
sure.
the rower now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he said the word poop, didn't he?
I'm not sure, but I know now he knows how we feel. I mean, when I was looking at universities for myself and also for my children,
yeah.
I mean, I felt as if I was swimming in a sea of it. So it was, you know, the idea that he's rude awakening into the world, of like, oh my God, it's ridiculous. Oh no, you know, I said this to my wife the other day that it's going to take somebody really well connected to get sick from E. coli, and then they're going to really get fed up with Thames water.
Then they'll do something about it, yeah.
Yeah.
I would invite Titchy Suitseyes and his entire family to come take a dip round my way and see how that works out for them.
I have a question for you.
What's your query?
Well, when you said you were in America in the 70s, do I detect bell-bottoms?
Bell-bottoms?
Yeah, it'd be about the right time, wouldn't it?
Bell-bottom blues. Rock and roll! No, I did not wear bell-bottoms. Not in America. No, I found straight-legged jeans, which were a revelation. It was like being set free. It really was. I can distinctly remember the first time I walked down the road in straight-legged jeans, as opposed to having this massive pair of sails flapping about my giant black and brown platform shoes. And it was like being set free. It was like taking the shackles off.
But those annoying kipper ties that went on forever.
Well, I never wore ties.
No, but it was like if you had a line-up or something. No, I don't mean that.
Line-up.
No, but you know what I mean? If you had to go to a function or a wedding, it was just like everything had far too many corners.
Yeah, and it was all brown and orange. What a
and polyester.
Hideous, yeah. Although I do remember fondly a shirt that I had with collars so large that you could land a plane on that had...
is it a hang glider?
Yeah, you know those old penny farthing bikes? And it used to have a recurring pattern of penny farthings on it, which seemed to be a thing in the 1970s. Maybe it was because the Prisoner came out, and that was their thing.
Yeah, I remember that too. But I tell you something, Nick. Also, you know, I don't mean to malign our cousins across the ocean, but what your colleague or and I think also the caller mentioned is that my experience of America when I went is a lot of the food, especially in some of these states, is beige and khaki.
Yes, well, that's true here. Yeah, everything is the same colour. Yeah, sort of
a bit of greenery,
light brown. No, that's right. Well, when I went there in the 1970s and early 80s, I mean, people were large then. They were larger than we are, but not to the extent that they are now. And I restate my case. I've said this so many times. The human race is being poisoned. That is unquestionable in my mind.
Not just with our water.
No, water ain't got nothing to do with that. I mean, I'm sure that our water is drinkable. American water is not necessarily so. But
it's full of all sorts of things.
Yeah, all sorts, yeah. And in some places you can actually set fire to it.
But listen, Nick, spare a thought for me, because my wife, for her sins, or for my sins, she's gone from vegetarian and she's creeping into the arena of veganism.
Uh-oh.
And I've never wanted a bacon sandwich so much in my life.
Well, bacon is what turned me back to meat after 20-odd years of not eating any.
That'll do it.
Yeah.
So I don't know what my Easter dinner's going to be tomorrow. Some kind of a cranberry nut roast.
Well, maybe just the cranberries.
It sounds awful, doesn't it?
Yeah,
like the band I can handle.
A giant plate of cranberries is what awaits you, John. And I wish you all the best. Thanks a lot, mate. Wow, where did you find that?
I searched penny farthing shirt with a big collar.
That is fantastic,
it's great,
isn't it? Yeah. It's almost like mine. If only it was a sort of a light brown colour, you'd have it perfectly. He's found a penny farthing patterned shirt with a big collar. Brilliant. And if it was made in the kind of material that you can't get near to an open flame in, then that would be perfect. I was going to say something that was pertinent to what we were just talking about. I can't remember it now, because I've become mesmerised by this shirt. Oh, it was poo. Yeah, the rower said that it was he was all tangled up in poo. Now, poo is not nice as a word. Poop, on the other hand, is funny, because it starts with a P and it ends in a P and it's got two O's in the middle. But poo it doesn't end satisfactorily. Poo, does it? Poop, on the other hand, there's just something funny about poop. There just is. That's a fact. I only want to take calls about poop from now on, and not what poop is, but the word itself. Why is poop so funny? Call me now. 0345. No, don't. I mean, don't call me now. Oath on this number.
Nick Abbott on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
Would you mind telling me what this is all about?
Yes, it's all about Captchas, baby. Dan texts, just tell us about Captcha now instead of constantly asking for a reminder. The asking for a reminder is the reminder, says Dan. And Gillian says, just tell us about the Captcha thing for goodness sake! Exclamation mark, like she's shouting at me. All right then. You're not going to like it. You know those Captcha things where you're trying to get through to, I don't know, buy a ticket on a website or look at a news item or something like that, and it has the impertinence to ask you whether you're a robot or not. And in order to determine whether you are a robot or not, it asks you, in the following 9 squares, how many of these squares contains a bike? And I don't know whether you've thought this, but I think, well, a robot would be able to tell how many squares has got a bike in it, wouldn't it? What kind of stupid robot wouldn't be able to tell you that? And so you dutifully click all the squares and you identify the ones with a bike, and you're absolutely certain that you got it right, and then it says, nope. No. Now try and identify all of the squares that have got a traffic light in them. And you think, oh, for crying out loud. I just want to buy some tickets to see Bouncy. You know, she's got a new country music album out.
Rock and roll!
So you do that, and eventually, with a bit of luck, you'll get through. Well, here is the news. It's not checking to see whether you can identify all of the squares that have got bikes in them. That's not the test. Unbeknownst to you, the test is whether your cursor moves to the boxes like a robot would move them or a human being would move them. Because robots will go straight to the box, go tick, 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 and that's it. Human beings, on the other hand, they meander all over the screen because they're thinking, which box has got a bike in it? And you hover around and you act like a human being. It's not checking whether you can identify a traffic light, for crying out loud. It's identifying what your cursor is doing on the screen while you're peering at it. And that's the reason why now they don't bother with that anymore. There's just a square on the screen that says, we're checking whether you're a robot, just tick this box. And you think, well, how's that checking if I'm a robot? Where's the test? The test is how your cursor gets to the box. Are you appalled yet? Because it's about to get worse. They're not just checking what your cursor is doing at that moment. They're checking what it has always been doing. Yes. And how are they getting away with that? Because you agreed in the terms and conditions. Yeah, I couldn't believe it when I found that out. Told you wouldn't like it. Are you appalled yet?
I'm horrified. I'm going to go back to reading books.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Books. Better. 0345 6060 973. I bet you're thinking about trying to see if you can fool it now. Yes?
But a lot of the time it's on a touch screen phone, so the only interaction you have is when you touch the box rather than waggling it around with your finger like you would with a mouse. How does that work?
Well, I don't know, but what immediately occurs to me is what you have on a touch screen phone is a camera pointing at you all the time.
You're much cleverer than I am.
That's certainly not true. But I know a robot that is.
Affirmative.
Let's have, let me see now. Who's been waiting the longest? Ealing, Mohammed.
Hi, good evening, Nicky. How you doing, buddy?
Good, thanks.
It seems like you've been on the martini tonight, isn't it?
No.
Well, it was about the complaint section that you was talking about.
The what?
And, the complaints and how we've got people power. I don't think there's people power absolutely whatsoever. I think on the both private sector and government organisations, if you do complain, it's more or less useless because people are investigating within.
I'm not talking about complaining. I'm just talking about not purchasing from a company that has displeased you.
Oh, how many companies are there? There's so many of it that displeases
Yeah, that's right. But I'm saying at one point it will go around the world that a company has stepped over the line, and enough people will think, I am not going to buy a product from that company anymore, and that company will cease to exist.
There are loads of companies, Nick, that cross the line on a daily
you're not
basis.
listening to me, Mohammed. I'm saying that it will go viral, and at one point the internet will provide the tools necessary for people not to protest aggressively, not to wave placards around or put stones through company HQ windows, just to not buy from that store anymore, just to walk by and get an exact same product from a different store. And those people who think that we've got so much money that we are completely untouchable and we can do whatever we like, those multinational corporations that earn billions of pounds, one of those will eventually get snuffed out like a light, not because people are protesting up and down waving placards, not because people are writing to their local newspaper or their national newspaper and fulminating about the behaviour of that company, just because people will think, well, yeah, you know what? I'm annoyed with them too. I ain't going to buy their product no more. And eventually it will do for one gigantic corporation, and that will send a chill wind through the chief executive officers' floors of all of the corporations in the world. Yeah, they are on they're on our list, and we're going to do something about them. Yeah, we do have power, Mohammed. Believe it.
Definitely. It's got to go back tonight, don't forget.
Oh, that's right. The clocks go back. That means we get not another hour. We get a less... What?
The clocks go forward.
Yeah, that's right.
Not back.
Yeah, any fool know that. Even a robot knows that.
Correct.
Yeah, the clocks go forward. That's correct, yeah. Thanks a lot, Mohammed. Of course, you don't really have to worry about that anymore because it all happens automatically. I quite enjoy watching my my phone deal with that without me touching it. It just magically happens. It's 2 o'clock, isn't it?
It is 2 o'clock.
Yeah, 2 o'clock in the morning. 2 o'clock in the morning will become 3 o'clock in the morning. I hope you're writing this stuff down, Mohammed.
Yes, I am.
Yes, he is. Yeah. How many traffic lights do you see in this square, by the way?
Pardon?
Yeah, that you fail. You fail this test. Actually, at 1 o'clock it goes to 2 o'clock. Right. So does that mean if I am a little late going to the news, I get an extra hour's pay?
I reckon that's probably how it works.
That's probably how it works. Bingo. 0345 6060 973. Let's have the West Midlands, Ranjit.
Hi, mate.
Yes, Ranjit.
How you doing?
Good, thanks.
You know this thing about...
Where are you?
I'm just coming out of the little mention.
Come into the light.
Okay, I'm in the light. You know this thing about boycotting things, yeah?
Yes.
Okay. There was one company, he's turned around and said, if you want me to sell you rubbish, I will sell you rubbish.
Oh, that.
And he went off the high street, yeah. You remember in the jewellery shop, yeah?
Right, well, that wasn't exactly how it went, but yeah,
yeah,
I
but
get
that's
it.
what he said.
Yeah.
Okay. You know, in America, everybody knows that Donald Trump's a bad man, yeah?
No, they don't.
Okay.
Half the country love him, like Jesus Christ himself. That's true.
So when people are saying, I'd rather have Putin to rule us rather than Biden.
Yes.
Yeah. So getting people to boycott anything, I think we've lost the battle.
No, we haven't. The battle has not begun yet. We just haven't used it yet. The internet we've used for pussycat and puppy dog videos and looking up the football scores and what the weather's going to be like in Timbuktu. We haven't used it in this way yet, but we will. It's bound to happen.
But what I'm trying to say is they've socially conditioned us, yeah, to not even think for ourselves anymore.
Well, that's on us, Ranjit.
Yeah, but that's what I'm trying to say. They've made us into dinglings, right? Okay, and people aren't thinking straight. So I think that it's going to be it won't happen in our lifetime. I don't think so.
I think it absolutely will, and I can't quite believe that it hasn't happened already. You know, people are conditioned to accept certain things, but I'm talking about a company that you willingly go to on a regular basis to buy your weekly food shop or or to fill up your car or your coffee of the day or, you know, stuff like this. It's relatively unimportant which shop you buy it from, so you can get almost the exact same product and service somewhere else. And one of these corporations is going to step over the line, and somebody's complaint is going to go viral, and 1 billion people will see it, and 1 billion people will think, well, I'm going to buy my coffee somewhere else. I'm going to fill up at the garage down the road. And that company will go out of business.
Okay, we agree now, right, that Thames Water has stepped over the line.
Yes.
Yep, okay. We've got no choice but to have
Well, that's right. We ain't got no choice with them because it's a monopoly.
So that's what I'm trying to say. People are getting monopolies on our brains. So people are going to be too dumb to do this. I mean, everybody goes on about China, this, China, that.
I think you misunderstand me. I'm not asking for people to... I'm going to have to... I know you've been waiting a long time, Ranjit, but I took you right before the news. Sorry about that. But I'm not talking about people using their mental acuity to figure out, any of this stuff. It's just about, where do I get my coffee today? It's as simple as that. And one day, a company is going to go out of business because they just annoyed the wrong person. I firmly believe that is true.
On your radio, on Global Player, and...
Play LBC.
Leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC. This is LBC from Global. Leading Britain's conversation with Nick Abbot.
Some nobody.
Yeah! Dude!
Colin says, this week those bureaucrats in Europe have only gone and banned silver mercury dental fillings. Thank goodness we had the foresight to leave the European Union and will not be banning them. Our patriotic teeth are free to be filled with harmful mercury-based amalgam. Makes you proud to be British, says Colin. Well, don't worry about a thing, Colin. You won't be able to see a dentist anyway. You'll be pulling your own teeth out. You ain't got you won't have any fillings. Don't worry about that. And Simon says, leave Sunak alone. He's doing his best. And he has a plan, don't forget. Nobody knows what that plan is, but he keeps saying that we have to follow it. It would be much worse under Labour.
We have a plan, or you just go back to square one. That's why it's so important we stick to this plan.
That's why it's so important. God, I don't know what's worse, actually, when he starts rocking back and forwards in his seat and getting tetchy. I go out, and people say they don't want an election. Yeah, right. Name the people that say they don't want an election. I want the names of those people. Or whether he has that, like, puppy dog earnestness. We have a plan. We must stick to it. Nobody's believing you at all. You are terrible at your job. How many bikes can you see in this picture, Rishi Sunak? Martin says, did you ever take the open-top bus tour when you briefly lived in Glasgow? It was gorgeous here today. You'd have loved it, says Martin. Open-top bus tour in Glasgow. There's no such thing. It can't possibly exist. 0345 6060 973. Stockport. Hello, John.
Oh, hi, Nick. Just a couple of things. The first one is someone stole the Easter eggs off my doorstep, right, that were delivered, right?
No.
Anyway, well, yeah. And, you know, like, I'm sick of the door thefts. You know, like people stealing off people's doors. You know, packages and parcels that are coming. Anyway, it's just like, it's rampant anyway. But the other thing I wanted to say...
I thought that was just an American thing. I mean, you see those video doorbell
they don't care.
Clips of people, you know, taking... Yeah. Somebody from Amazon will deliver something, then somebody from next door will come and pick it up and take it away. That's outrageous. But it happens in Stockport.
Yeah, but Nick as well. The guy who's been arrested for historical sexpence in Ireland, yeah, DP, that guy.
Yeah.
Right. What happened to innocent till proven guilty?
We've still got that. Still got that. Thanks a lot, John. 0345 6060 973. Daryl says, I can't believe that on the weekend that we celebrate the death of Jesus, we're having a whole hour stolen from us. I blame the other JC, Jeremy Corbyn. Yeah, thanks a lot, Jeremy Corbyn. You see what you've done? Robin texts, the real issue is that the top 20% have not been affected by cuts and inflation and austerity and wage stagnation or poverty, and they are the Tory MPs and decision makers. Now, I don't think you mean the top 20%. I think you mean the top 2%. He says they have no conception of the day-to-day experience of the rest of us, and so they continue to cut our services and amenities and wonder why we hate them. Well, we don't hate them, Robin. A fifth of the people in this country, 1 in 5, want to vote Conservative again. They don't think that they've had enough Conservative. They want more of it. He says they think the answer is more cuts and no one, not even the Labour Party, stands up to them. Instead, they agree and promise to go along with it, says Robin. Well, that's one of the reasons to be less than entirely delighted with the Labour Party. But, what's the option? What are your options right now? Let's be realistic about things. Would you like 5 more years of what we have at the moment? Do you think after the last 14 years that your life is so much better that you want another 5 years of it? Do you think perhaps that they have not had enough of a go at it, the Conservative Party? Do you think that we are being unreasonable to expect them to improve things after only 14 years and that they perhaps need another 5 years to really get it done? If you don't think any of the above, then you're going to have to choose to vote for somebody else. And if the perfect party is not available, then just vote for the least bad option. Austin says, isn't it more than just coincidence that the same 2 teams qualify every year for the boat race? Just a thought. That is highly suspicious. Somebody should definitely look into that. I can't believe it's still a thing. I mean, who cares about the Oxford and Cambridge boat race? I mean, really? Apart from those 7-foot freaks that take part and, the associated rowing club people who reside down in Putney, apart from those people, who cares? I mean, what relevance does it have for the rest of us? It's just such a dull spectator sport as well. As I've previously explained, I used to live there, and on the years that I could bring myself to go, because the event was right there outside where I lived, I thought, well, I might as well. It was just the worst spectator sport in the world. The gun goes, you can't see anything anyway because everyone's like 8 feet tall. And but even if you could, even if you had a riverside position, the gun goes, they charge off, and that's it. I mean, you don't follow them. They're just gone. And they don't come around again. That's it. It's over. Worst sport ever. Austin says, no, just said that. I was going to read something else about that. But maybe I'll take another call because I think it would probably be rude not to. They have been waiting a while. Wembley Park. Hello, Christoph.
Oh, hello, Nick. Oh, I'm surprised I got on so soon.
Oh, I'll put you on hold.
By all means, if you want to. But I wanted to say, because it is your show after all. Have you put me on hold?
No. Not yet.
I was just going to say that I don't want an election.
What?
Yeah, I'm one of those who doesn't want an election. But I do want to explain to you why.
Why?
Well, the thing is, I don't know if you remember, and I can't really remember myself exactly when this happened, but around the time, I'm sure a bit before, but definitely quite a lot after the Brexit referendum, you had a lot of people, a lot of leavers, who won the vote. They were absolutely cock-a-hoop at winning the vote. Not so much because they'd won the vote, but that it upset those. Yeah, right.
And they have that in America on steroids. They don't care. Half the country in America, the dingaling half, don't care what happens to them. They just want the other side to be upset about it.
So now I'm taking that a sort of step different. I'm looking at this differently. People who voted for the Tories, I want them, and who now regret it, I want them to suffer for as long as possible. That is why I don't want an election.
Right, but see, you're as bad as the people in America. You're going to be suffering along with them.
Well, I can take it. I can take it.
Right.
No, but it is serious. I think if you really do take your vote seriously, then you have to realise that what you do will have consequences for the next 5 years.
Well, more than that. Way more than that.
Well, you're right, of course. I mean,
at least 10. At least 10.
But you get where I'm coming from. If the idea of sort of having an election early does seem rather odd to me. And in fact, there's loads of things wrong with America. But I, in fact, I do admire. I went to when I was one of my last trips over there. We spent some time sitting in the Senate. I think it was about 2015. And no, it must have been 2017. It was impressive. I felt I was very impressed about the way they debated stuff. And remember, they did sort of create their country from scratch, and they do still describe it as an experiment in democracy. So I'm really hoping the experiment will be a success. And I like the way that they have their elections go like clockwork. For every 4 years, every 4 years.
You don't get to pick and choose when it is.
Yeah, I think that's quite damaging that we have that freedom here.
Oh, yeah, we don't have that freedom.
No, well, we don't know.
One person has that freedom.
Yeah.
And they get to call it at the moment that they think would be best for them. Yeah, that's...
I suppose that's the only thing that kind of worries me a little bit.
Yeah.
That things might... Now, this is the weird thing. There's so many contradictions in this. I'm hoping things won't improve. So that's what I think.
Yeah, because...
But yet, really, I do want them to improve.
Right, because if they manage to fix the National Health Service in the next, let's say, 3 months... I mean, we might as well talk fantasies now. And if everybody's wages went up 50% and all prices were decreased by, let's say, a quarter... then people might... And the weather was fantastic. We had a really, really great summer.
And snow at Christmas.
And snow at Christmas, quite right, yeah. Then, they might have a chance.
Yeah.
But I get what you're saying, but that's not a very... I don't want to use the P word, but that's not a very patriotic thing to say, that you want the people that visited this mess upon us to suffer more.
Well, there are some people who don't regret it, remember, I suppose. But, But I know a lot of people do. And I want them to regret it for as long as possible. And I'm really, that's a flaw in my character.
Right. Okay. Well, not just you. I'm sure that feeling is, commonly felt. All right. Good work. Thanks a lot, Christoph. 0345 6060 973. Yeah, I don't think we should go down that road. I think we're in danger of going down. I think we've actually walked away down that road, but we haven't committed ourselves yet. We can still turn back. America has they've joined a one-way street, and there's no turning back for them now. Not now. But we don't have to. We don't have to just want something because it will upset the other side. Because that's crazy talk, that is. That's joining a cult, that is. That's America. That's not here yet. Lily says, how do we get to a place where people treat austerity, public service cuts and Brexit as if they were acts of God instead of political choices? There were policy decisions deliberately made and implemented by incompetent, money-grubbing chancers. I don't see how we can put any of it right until we admit that it was all wrong. Yes, exactly, all of that. And austerity particularly. All of the cuts that we went through, in the guise of balancing the books, in the guise of making us less indebted as a nation, And after 14 years of it, we owe more money than we ever have in our history. We're more indebted now than at any point in the entire existence of this country. It's getting on for £3 trillion. And I don't know how many zeros that is, but I would expect it would be all of them. And this is after 14 years of austerity, of cutting everything, selling everything. And we still owe more than ever before. And it wasn't COVID because it happened before COVID. That's just an excuse they throw out. And it wasn't Ukraine because this happened before Ukraine. I mean, COVID and Ukraine made things worse, but they were worse than they have ever been before COVID and Ukraine. So don't let them bamboozle you with that misinformation. Yeah, it is extraordinary. And we're one of the few countries that actually did austerity. I mean, most economists would suggest that in order to get out of a recessionary death spiral, you spend money. Infrastructure is what we should have been spending our money on. And that we didn't is evident everywhere. From the poop in the River Thames, for instance, to your train has been cancelled for your convenience. That kind of thing. To the potholes in the roads, to the state of the NHS, to the state of the legal system in this country. Prisons are bursting at the seams. To the point that they're letting people out early. The party of law and order is letting people out early because they've run out of prison spaces. Great. All of that started with this bloke.
I think this is nonsense.
Yeah, he started this. And what was his punishment? His punishment was reward. Because none of these people will suffer from their misdeeds. They will simply go to the House of Lords to rule over us forever. Because apparently that's democracy.
Nick Abbott on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
So they opened their big mouths and out came talk. Talk.
Paul texts, what about if one of the boats had capsized? What would have happened then? Well...
major capital letters, big news story.
All over the world it would have been. Steve says, I'm glad you wouldn't trust them to run a bath. Can you imagine what might be in it, Nick? Says Steve. Talking about the water companies, I think. Guruk, Scotland. Paul.
Hi, Nick. First time caller, long time listener.
Good man.
It was just to touch on the boycott discussion. There's I don't know if you're aware, there's an app called Never Spoons.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and it basically identifies local pubs within the area of Wetherspoons bars, so that you can actively avoid them. Obviously, Tim Martin's a bit of a insert your favourite expletive here.
Well, he wouldn't be on one of the pictures in the window of your barber. Let's just put it like that.
Certainly not. It reminds me of a character out of Harry Enfield. But you should hopefully, if other people are aware of this, they can start using it, and maybe it'll inspire somebody to come up with a similar app for other companies that they want to avoid.
Well, maybe, yeah, but that's not really what I'm talking about. I'm talking about something that just goes viral, not that somebody starts a campaign and promotes. Although I suppose it sort of fits in a bit, yeah. But it's easy to avoid a pub chain because there's another one. There's another pub just over the road. Surely,
they're everywhere, but
yeah, they're everywhere. Yeah,
they're absolutely everywhere.
All right, thanks a lot, Paul. 0345 6060 973. I mean, they're not shy about it. They say Wetherspoons right over the door, don't they? Steve says, I'm glad... No, read that. Liam says, the river wet. The river wet? There's no such thing. The river wet. The river wet runs right at the end of the garden. Instead of paying Thames Water to dump our sewage in there, Would they be okay if I just ran a soil pipe across the garden and did it ourselves for free? No, Liam, you'd be going to jail for that. They're getting bonuses. You would get jail time. Different. Sean says, I remember an old Irish navvy saying, where there's muck, there's money. Obviously been taken up by the water companies in Great Britain. Yes. Yeah, that is right. I mean, I do have detailed files. Shall we get into that? Do you want to dive into poop? Thames Water has been leaking raw sewage, not just into the Thames, but in pretty much every river over which they have charge. They've been leaking raw sewage into a river in an idyllic Cotswolds village for 338 hours straight. And it's still spewing filth. Oh. And if there's any organ that knows about spewing filth, it's the Mail Online, where I read this story. Locals fear untreated sewage pumped into Bledington Brook near Stow-on-the-Wold in Gloucestershire for 2 weeks is poisoning their dogs, killing bees and harming farmers' crops. But how are things going apart from that?
Oh, fabulous.
Meanwhile, Thames Water, the company responsible, is saying that we, customers, must accept a 40% increase in our bills to pay for the infrastructure that they've spent the last 33 years not fixing.
Well, the whole world's gone crazy.
And the government is very, very angry. Michael Gove said the firm must carry the can for years of serial mismanagement that left it £15 billion in debt. Imagine what Michael Gove could have done about this if he had spent the last 14 years at the heart of government. Imagine what he could have done if he had been Environment Secretary during that time. Well, that really would be a capital letters big news story.
A major capital letters big news story.
But no, instead of that, after selling our water for a pittance, debt-free, the water companies essentially borrowed £60 billion, not million, billion, against the value of the assets that the Tories gave them, and they put all that money in their own bank accounts, and are now making out like they don't know where it's gone. Water companies pumped record amounts of raw sewage into British rivers and seas. This is last year, record amounts. They bested their previous totals. They poured more sewage just wherever they wanted, despite having already been caught out doing it. I mean, before water campaigners like Fergal Sharkey, who even heard of companies pouring sewage onto beaches and into rivers? This wasn't in the news. I mean, the very idea is ridiculous. I don't recall anybody saying anything about it at all. Which must have given the water companies a certain feeling of security, that they could do anything they liked to us and we'd just shrug and take it. So thanks, Fergal Sharkey. We know about it now. Just like the post office scandal was brought to the public's attention by an ITV drama. So has the state of our waterways been brought into the spotlight by the singer in a band.
Rock and roll!
I mean, you think that a government that was guided by integrity would have done something about sewage pouring out all over the place, but I suppose it's not one of their top priorities.
It's the country's number one priority. It's my number one priority, up and down the country, and that will be our focus.
You seriously need to get gripping it.
I'm gripping it.
He is actually gripping it right now. But back to an idyllic Cotswolds village called Bledington Brook, near Stow-on-the-Wold in Gloucestershire. Or it used to be idyllic. Now it's got a bit of a whiff about it.
Disgusting.
Bledington residents were not surprised. Thames Water's own data showed the raw sewage at the site, less than 30 yards from a school playground, has been pouring out for 2 weeks. As they say, the issue has been on and off for about a year. Thames Water said untreated discharges were unacceptable and blamed high rainfall and groundwater conditions for the sewage spills. Right, well, I mean, why not go the whole hog and blame Meghan Markle? Yeah, thanks a lot, Meghan Markle. You see what you've done? No! But Environment Agency data shows that the Bledington storm overflow spewed raw sewage 65 times for a total of almost 1,000 hours last year, meaning the ongoing 2-week leak is already more than a third of the total discharge time recorded last year. And we're still in March. Isn't it just a perfect encapsulation of where we are in this country? Being fleeced while getting hosed down with poop. And the Environment Agency says the main cause of the high spill frequency at the sewage plant is due to issues with hydraulic capacity. Effectively, the amount of water that the system can cope with. But I suspect that the main cause of the high spill frequency at the sewage plant is that our water industry was given to private enterprise that's running a monopoly of something that we can't do without for profit. And the assistant manager at a pub in that manner, Ruth Gordon, said somebody's dog went into the river not far from here and got really ill. It's disgusting what they're doing. When they say they got millions of pounds of profit, why aren't they doing something about it, says Ruth. Because that would mean spending some of their profits, Ruth, which would mean that they didn't have that money anymore. And a farmer called Sophie says sewage discharge was an ongoing problem, with her farm suffering from a major incident a few months where tons of wastewater flooded the farm. She said, we've had tons and tons at the bottom of our farm. It's killed all the bees. It's a nightmare. She said, I would never swim in a river around here anymore. They're toxic. A Thames Water spokesmodel said, we regard any untreated discharges as unacceptable, and we're committed to stopping them from being necessary with the assistance of our regulators. And I think the regulators should do a little less assisting and a bit more punishing. But I suppose that's out of the question. In the meantime, don't go to any body of water that is not completely surrounded by tiles.
Leading Britain's conversation. Nick Abbott. Alexa, send a comment to LBC.
Are you trying to tell me that this is your act?
Yep, this is it. This is it. Sean says, I remember an old Irish navvy saying, where there's muck, there's money. Obviously, it's been taken up by the water companies in Great Britain. David says, country music stems from black music anyway, so the morons should get their facts straight. Which morons are you talking about? I mean, OK, stems from, don't mean no, never mind. I mean, I like blues, but country music just rubs me out the wrong way. It's a bit too, I don't know. What's a polite way of saying inbred? A little bit, dingling-ish. And Mike says, country music is great. If you rewind a country record, his wife doesn't leave him, the dog doesn't die, and his horse comes back. Well, that's a good point. Newport, George.
Oops, sorry.
Is there anybody out there? Yes, George.
I am here. Yes,
Go ahead.
I am here. Well, Nick, you make my weekend. Every weekend you're fabulous.
Oh, thanks, George.
Yeah, but you've also been talking about this Thames water for quite some time.
Yes.
And I'm surprised really the government haven't listened to you. They should get a think tank out there and have a chat with Nick Abbott around the table.
Yeah.
But
wouldn't it be marvellous to think in a tank? That must be great.
That's right. Well, I was a long-term tank, really, in this situation. But I was just thinking about the Oxford and Cambridge rowing down the Thames today with those. They must have been off-put a bit. As they're rowing, they're thinking those little paddles at the end, but they're probably aiming at the things to back down.
Oh, please.
You know what I mean?
The poop parade, yeah.
And I noted you talked about with Richie, what's his name, suitcase.
Mm-hmm.
He that statement he says where he says, we're going to be, everything at every level. And I thought, well, I wonder what Mr. Gove thinks about that, because he's been trying to level up. There should be no level, should there, really?
Yeah, they should have done it by now. Yeah, what's taken them so long? They need another 5 years? Levelling up my eye. It's like trickle up. It's like trickle down economics. It's actually trickle up economics.
Anyway, today I got lost in the Sainsbury's car park. I was a half hour looking for my car. I'm getting on a bit.
Oh, yeah.
And the worst situation is when you go to Sainsbury's, forget where you park your car. When you've borrowed your daughter's car, you think, oh my God, I don't know what I'm looking for. But anyway.
You come out of Sainsbury's and you think, and you spend 15 minutes looking for your car, and then you remember you came by bus. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. That's fantastic. Yeah.
All right. Thanks a lot, George. Cheers, mate. 0345 6060 973. It felt like it was the end of the conversation there, but I think then he restarted, but time's up. Time's up. Archie says, do you mean Willie Nelson?
Want to score some pot?
Yeah, I was talking about Willie Nelson a little while ago. Yeah, that's right. Hey, by the way, I heard on the worldwide news just now that the police had arrested somebody who was thinking about disrupting the race, or words to that effect. Well, what about the people who have poured poop on the racetrack? Do they not get arrested? What a way to run a country, eh?
Dreadful.
I can't believe it. Kirsty says, as horrifying as the Trump debacle is, I want him to go to jail and then, from inside, become president and pardon himself. Well, that would be a thing to see, yeah. And it would not surprise me if that's exactly what happened. I mean, I would be doubly surprised if he actually went to jail, because I don't think people like him actually suffer the consequences of their deeds. But, it would be kind of entertaining. Just as long as the dinglings know exactly who they're voting for. But none of his various travails seem to put them off at all. Did I do this yesterday? Something of the order of 95% of people who are Trump supporters say that they aren't remotely interested in whether he is convicted of any crime at all. That they will, I did, comes the message from next door. I did this yesterday, so I'm just repeating myself now. Like there's an echo in here. Yeah, but that is an extraordinary number. So it is like a cult. There's no doubt about it. It's not a political party. He is not a political figure. He is a religious figure now. They have joined a cult. Doesn't matter if he gets convicted of being a rapist. It doesn't matter if he gets convicted of dodging his taxes and making the little people, not leprechauns, pay in his stead. Doesn't matter if he's a crook, a con man, a serial liar, or any of these things. If he gets convicted of any of those things, it won't make never mind at all. It'd be completely irrelevant to his fans. They're going to vote for him anyway. So it is a cult. There's no doubt. It's a little bit alarming. I mean, if it was a smaller country, something insignificant like, I don't know, Belgium, then it would be less alarming. It's just that if he runs America, he's going to run this country too, isn't he? I mean, if he decides to go to war, or if he decides to cozy up to Vladimir Putin, he's a really great guy. He likes me a lot. I like him. So we're going to be cozying up to Vladimir Putin too, whether we like it or not. His actions will have consequences for everybody on Earth. It's galling, actually, isn't it? That so few people have such a colossal effect on the rest of us. I mean, you could just take one person to snuff out all life on Earth. Just one. One. I mean, there's more of us than there are of him. And it's always a him. Why don't we just take him out? Just get up the nerve. I mean, you can't kill all of us if we charge him all at once, can he? I mean, there's just got to be a few hundred brave people right at the front to take all the flak. And then, by volume of numbers, we can run down Vladimir Putin, let's say, as an example. Or Xi, or, any one of these people. But, I mean, if you look at the history of man, and I'm not a history buff at all, I know absolutely nothing about it, other than it doesn't take very many people to create a colossal amount of misery. In a lot of cases, just one person. I don't think that the human race is running itself very well. I think we need adult supervision. Aliens from space should make an intervention. Any time you like. We're sitting here waiting. Tom says, I mentioned on Twitter today that all the fun things about Easter are actually pagan. Bunnies are left over from a pagan festival of Eostra, a great northern German goddess whose symbol was a rabbit or a hare. The exchange of eggs is an ancient custom celebrated by many cultures and dates back to 600 AD. To say people had a meltdown would be an understatement. A meltdown, you're talking about, that's in reference to, God, it seems so long ago, but I was talking about the usual suspects are banging on about, they've cancelled Christmas. Just like every year they say they've cancelled, not Christmas, Easter. Like every year they say they've cancelled Easter. You could set your watch by it. Like a couple of weeks before Christmas, they'll say, we're not, the evil underhand forces at large have cancelled Christmas now, they'll say, in front of an actual Christmas tree with the words Happy Christmas on the screen. I mean, it's just ridiculous. It's just so tiring. I mean, they're tiresome and tiring. Peter says, maybe some... that was very... that seemed weirdly factual, that last text, by the way, about, the bunnies and such like. The bunnies and the German goddess and exchange of eggs and all that. It was almost educational. Worryingly so for this programme, I would suggest. Peter texts, maybe somebody could arrange a swim day in the Thames for the Tory party. All of them, and the sooner the better. Joe says, I went to Windsor Castle and Eton today for a walk. The Thames looked so disgusting, and I couldn't work out if it was the flooding or the poop. Probably a little from column A and a little from column B. But people really didn't seem to mind. They were eating ice creams right by the river because the sun popped out for about 5 minutes. I also ate an ice cream by the river, says Joe. Well, you get everything you deserve there, Joe. Would you like some sprinkles with that?
Disgusting.
Yeah, I'll just assume that the answer is no. How many of these texts and such have I got left? Oh, my God. I'm never going to get through those. How do these people get my number? Ian says, don't forget how ill David Walliams became in 2011 after swimming 140 miles in the River Thames for charity. Did he? I can't forget something that I didn't know in the first place. I don't know, David Walliams. Not for me. Andy says, just woken from suspended animation to gaslighting, scurvy and sewage. Have I gone back in time to Victorian times? Which is two use of the word time in the same sentence. That's just plain wrong, Andy. So you fail. You get an F. See me after class. And Johnny says, so proud to be English, spelt like that, with St George's Cross this Easter, even though they tried to cancel it. I hate the fact that everybody keeps banging on about Jesus being some woke snowflake. He invented our English cross, and the feeding the hungry and the healing the sick for free and welcoming the stranger is just loony lefty lies. If Jesus were alive today, he'd be running as a Reform UK candidate, says Johnny. Yeah, well, there are lots of cartoons and such on all over social media pointing that very thing out, and that is undoubtedly true. That if, to my mind anyway, if Jesus were actually walking among us now, then the people who call themselves Christian would be talking about him like he was a woke, lefty snowflake. Wouldn't they? What do you think?
My view?
Yeah, I know what your view is. I know exactly what your view is.
Leading Britain's conversation. Nick Abbott. Alexa, send a comment to LBC.
We're running late.
We are running late. James says, did you know when people were learning to drive in Reliant Robins back in the 1980s, they were required to use stabilisers? No, I did not know that. I mean, what's the point of putting a stabiliser on a three-wheel car? Why don't you just make a four-wheel car, for crying out loud? David in North Carolina says, just saw a Trump video with the orange man selling a laundry detergent called White Power, produced by a company called Triple K. How white does it get your sheets? Hannah says, I'm not sure if I'm imagining things, but I think today's Daily Fail had a Labour more trusted on defence than the Tories on the front page. Yeah, it's almost like they forgot who they were for a moment there. Labour more trusted on defence than the Tories. Now, is there a good reason for that?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. Yes, there is. Wow. Where'd you get that?
It's awful, isn't it?
It's a Royal Mail
so
van.
bad.
Now, did Royal Mail use Reliant Robins?
I don't think so, because you'd need to be able to, turn corners.
Corners, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's got a, I guess there's not much point in describing it, but it's a Reliant Robin, which it looks like it's been tricked out for speed, which I wouldn't recommend. And it's got stabilisers on it, with a giant spare wheel on the roof. And it's a website called what?
It reminded me of, did you ever watch the programme Pimp My Ride?
No.
Really, really bad TV in which a celebrity, I think it may have been Bez.
Bez?
Yeah, Bez. Would have someone on and he would radically pimp a terrible car and make it totally worse.
Yeah. Hey, people.
Warning.
Don't take any advice from Bez. On any subject. Just say no thank you. I mean, good manners don't cost nothing, do they?
Be polite.
0345 6060 973. Clive says, the Reliant Robin, you don't need a driving licence, just a motorbike licence to drive one. Well, and a complete absence of embarrassment. Don't forget that, Clive. Havering. Dell. Del. Yes, Del.
Hello there.
Hello there.
Yes, I'm here. I was listening to you about the water situation.
Oh, yes.
And I know for a fact that the actual rainwater system, we've got two systems on our estate. One is for the rainwater and one is for your sewage.
Mm-hmm.
And people that are having extensions and other things done on their properties, instead of that rainwater being filtered into the rainwater system, they're bypassing that and they're putting it into the sewage, which is then, obviously, when we get a lot of rain, we're getting so much water into the sewage that's why they're all overflowing. And I did ring our water company and asked and tell them that, why are you doing that? And they did say that they are allowed to do that.
Right.
And you have building inspectors, don't they? They come down and check everything.
Yeah.
And even I phoned the building inspector because they got contractors now that do it. And I phoned them and asked them why they're doing it. And they said, we are allowed to do that.
Right, well, I don't know what it's like up where you live, but I think in London it all gets mixed in anyway. I mean, I don't think there is a separate one for rainwater and a separate one for sewage, not to my knowledge. I think that's what they're trying to address with this giant super sewer, which will keep us okay for a couple of years, but it doesn't really have like a long future ahead of it, and they know this already before it's even been. God, it's like HS2 before it's even been finished. It's a failure.
Yeah. But obviously, our houses were built in the 50s.
Right.
So from the 50s onwards, I would take it that's. I mean, I think you're talking about the really old properties in London.
Well, I'm not. I don't know the ins and outs, and nor do I wish to investigate without a hazmat suit on. But you may be right and you may be wrong, Del. But keep your eyes peeled, and for goodness' sake, don't get any on your shoes. All right?
No, none of that on your shoes.
Okay, thanks a lot, mate. 0345 6060 973. Chris says, I sometimes play games with the LBC Captcha when I write to you lot. Eventually, Captcha gets fed up on me and just sends the message. I didn't know that we did Captcha. Do we? Well, there has to be some way to weed out the bots.
Affirmative.
Otherwise, all you'd get would be bots. Because bots can send no end of messages. And so we would be infiltrated by robots from China or Putin or, one of these people. So there's got to be some way of wheedling it out, but that's the way they do it. They're not actually checking to see whether you know what a traffic light looks like. It's not that at all. And you'd think that eventually it would be pretty easy to get a robot to just drag the cursor over the screen like it's an idiot or it's drunk. There must be a way to program a robot to make it appear drunk.
Correct.
You would think so. Julie says, my dad had a yellow Robin Reliant. He proudly introduced it to us in a car park when he picked us up after shopping with Mum. I can imagine the response. We went on holiday to Newquay, turned a sharp corner up a hill, and we tipped over. I fell onto my brother, and my mum fell on my dad. We got it pushed up. We got it pushed upright, and then went on our holiday. Says Julie. Well, yeah. I mean, our first car was a Hillman Imp, which wasn't significantly better than a Robin Reliant, but at least it had the correct number of wheels. That it did have. Andy says, feces is such an awful word. Poop is infantile. Jobby is the only acceptable term in polite society, and I think that is incorrect, Andy. Wrong. It's because poop is infantile that it is the only word there that is acceptable to me. I mean, feces is just such a horrible word to look at. Write it down. Faeces. It's just awful. That is a terrible combination of letters, regardless of what it means. Poop, on the other hand, is a delight to look at. Look, it's got 2 O's in the middle and 2 P's on either side. What's not to like about that? Poop. This is the only thing on LBC at the moment. Can you believe that? Manchester. Hello, John.
Hello.
Yes, John.
It's just your comment about the post office not having three-wheelers. They did. They were called scammels.
Scammels?
And they were like a three-wheeler lorry with a trailer behind.
A trailer?
Yeah, they had a trailer. There was like a three-wheeler lorry with a trailer behind, right? And they were used inside the postal depots and on the railway stations because they were used in for limited space. You know, so they could turn in, what do you call it, tight spaces.
Yes. Like a cab.
Yeah. And I don't know if they've still got them, but it was ideal when you didn't have much room in the railway stations.
Yeah, that makes sense. But you wouldn't want to drive one out on the main road.
Well, they were used on the main road because they were had license plates on them, so they could be used on the roads as well.
Right.
Yeah. It was ideal for using in limited spaces.
The stuff you learn on this show. Educational, no?
No. Yeah, another thing, while you was on about poop a couple of minutes ago.
About what?
Poop.
Oh, poop, yeah.
Yeah. Why on a ship is it called the poop deck?
Yeah, exactly right.
Was it where they went to the toilet?
Well, that's not where I want my cabin. No. I would like it above the poop deck, if possible, please. All right, thanks a lot, John. Yeah, happy sailings. No thanks. I'll take the plane. 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 Thanks. I'll take the plane.